And so we descend into this storyline to experience its gifts. A long, long time ago, when the earth was young and the serpents were new, there lived among the serpent people a serpent king. The serpent king was young and hungry for power, and in equal measure he wanted love. Yet he knew not how to procure that love. So he sat in his serpent throne, and he spoke to his serpent people. He said, "Send me a love that will surpass all other love." Now the heavens were listening, and they opened up to answer him. A serpent goddess came through from the heavens, and she entered his earthly realm. She spoke and said, "I am the one you have dreamed into being." The serpent king welcomed her, and the villagers, the serpents, they danced and celebrated for weeks and weeks. When the celebration was complete, the two royal serpent beings took the time to get to know each other in a more intimate way than the public celebrations. They sat down next to each other, as far as serpents can sit, in a coiled position, each on their own throne. And they talked and shared their dreams and their longings and their visions for the world and what it might become and who they might become within it. At long last, there came a time when their visions collided with each other. And the two were concerned, and they were curious, and they were longing for even more connection, even more points of synchronicity and agreement. They said, "Why is it that our ways are not aligned in this one area?" And the heavens opened up and they said, "Is it not enough that your hearts are aligned in all of these numerous ways? Why should it need to be that everything is the same? Wouldn't it be boring and dull if there was nothing to disagree upon?" The serpent said, "Let us make this work." They began to argue and dissect and hammer out their positions on the way the world might evolve. The serpent king said, "I shall be the ruler, and I shall receive the teachings from the heavens and transmit them to the people." The serpent queen said, "It is I who am of the divine providence of the heavens. I was sent here to lead and to guide the people. So it is I who shall rule." The serpent king, not wanting to lose his power, thought about sharing the rule with the queen. But instead, he cursed the heavens, and he said, "Why did you send me a being who wanted more power than I could offer her?" He went within, and he cried, and he withdrew from public life. In his absence, the serpent queen ruled. She ruled with a loving and gentle hand, with compassion, clarity, ease, and love. One day when the serpent king awoke from his long sleep, where he had gone within and licked his wounds, he looked at the world around him, and he saw golden light surrounding him and his serpent people. He saw that they were happy, they were enamored, and they were pleased, and it was good. The serpent king became enraged. He said, "Who are you to do a better job than I myself have done as the leader of the people?" He sought to destroy her, the serpent queen, and to erase her memory so that he would not be held up to her light and deemed insufficient and unworthy. He put poison in the minds and hearts of the serpent people. and he led them to revolt against her. And they did. Their hearts were sickened, and yet they did his bidding, even though they knew that it was wrong. For their loyalties still lay with him, and they were considerably under his influence. In the end, when the goddess had been destroyed, the Serpent Queen being a manifestation of the goddess, when her legacy had been erased insofar as it was possible, all that remained was the king and his crown and this vague memory in the hearts of the people. The poisoned vitriol the king had seeded against the goddess dropped down and made its home in the wombs of the people. And the poison lingers, as poisons do. This poison was passed down from generation to generation, hiding its presence in the deepest, most powerful space we hold. It was documented in myths as the curse of the woman. In this way, the people would remember selectively, and they would blame themselves, but not all of themselves. They would particularly blame those who embodied the golden light of the goddess. And we carry that poison seed within our wombs. The memory of the goddess has been distorted beyond measure, so that the legacy of the quote-unquote rightful king could be passed down. Why have we told this story through the lens of the serpent? We tell it for they are the primordial beings, those who grace this world before all others, and those who perhaps will also grace it after all the others have gone. These are the original primordial beings who can slide between land, sea, and sky. And you have not yet seen the full potential of these beings. They are designed in their providence, and there is much that is still hidden. You, or we, as the children of the serpents, carry their legacy. And this legacy played out in more modern times and through biblical drama. But the seeds were planted long before any documentation existed, because the serpents do not document, they do not write down. They carry their truth in their DNA, which is shared with ours. So as we go into any trauma that still resides in our wombs, we access that primordial poison seed from the serpent people. Then we find the layers of the trauma that were built on top of that seed. For like attracts like. That original seed of trauma, of lies, of disgust with self and with the feminine principle, is at the static core of this trauma seed. The seed that, through its electricity and magnetism, has attracted more and more layers of trauma on top. All of these layers bear the echo of that original poison seed. And so here together, today and now, we go into the poison essence of that core seed inside of the womb. And we crack it open, not just for you, but on behalf of all beings everywhere. Humans, animals, serpents, plants, all those who grace the earth. For all are impacted by that mass poisoning that took place. The goddess invites you to bring your hands to your womb space in such a way that you're making a diamond between your thumbs and your pointer fingers, and holding that center point that is exposed, so the center of the diamond, as your point of focus within the womb space. Let's go into this poison seed, which is not to be found within the ovaries. It's to be found in the center of the uterus. If the uterus were in the shape of a bull's skull, which essentially it is at the level of the nose. And that is the place that you have highlighted or targeted with your hand position, with this mudra. Ah, ha, 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 ha. We sing to this seed with gentleness, compassion, and love. For it is not the fault of the seed that it has been holding the poison, and it is not the fault of the poison what it has wrought. As we tune into this poison, we recognize that all things in tiny doses can be medicine, and poison can be as well. We tune into the vibration of the poison and ask to awaken its medicinal compounds at those tiny levels, like homeopathic remedies. We tune into the essence of this medicine to find what can be shared here. The poison is showing itself to us, and it looks like a drop of blood. As we zoom in, as if viewing it under a microscope, there are lots of little red blood bubbles with a tiny black flake-shaped speck inside of them. Ah, ha, 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 ha. And we hold up this flake for all to see, because this is that tiny seed of medicine that has been planted in all living beings on this earth. We shine light on it to see what kind of potential it holds for humankind and beyond. We see an image of the trees standing tall and proud, with their arms reaching up to the earth, their feet planted in the ground, and the leafy canopy like hair above them. Ah, ha, ha, ha. We see that seed of shame within the flake, inside the very first blood bubble, like the stem cell of this poison. This is the first gaslighting that was ever done. It was an act of planting shame and assigning that shame and blame to those who received it in their own innocence and willingness to be part of something larger. This is the first mass heart washing and subsequent brainwashing. That shame was washed through the body, and its scar was assigned to the people, when really it belongs to he who conceives of it. So here we summon the Serpent King to trial. He sits on his throne with the witness boxes on either side of him and the judge behind him. The judge channels the forces of heaven and hell, also known as the underworld, the above and the below. Ha, 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 ha. The judge says, "Serpent, what have you to say for yourself?" "Call me king," says the serpent. "Oh no, we do not call you king today, because the king is the ruler of the hearts and the minds of the people, and you have made the poison the ruler of the hearts and minds of the people, and not yourself and your truth." The former king hangs his head in shame, for the shame did not belong to the people to begin with. It was his own shame when he awoke and saw what power, what light, what beauty was wrought in his absence when he was inside doing his wound licking. He saw the world in its beauty and its full potential, and it was good. And he took that seed of shame from inside of himself and he planted it in the others so they could suffer along with him, and perhaps more so, to ease his own burden. We are all familiar with this particular act of bringing others down to our own level, for we have all done it in our own ways. So we approach this humbled king with the greatest compassion and understanding of what it is to be in a position where one's authority and light feels like it has been usurped by another and by their greatness and potential. We honor the pain. The serpent is here, and his seed of shame looks like a flaked off piece of brown bark. It rises up from his heart, up through his throat, and out through his mouth. And it lands on the bench in front of him, for he is in our courtroom. We say, "Tell us of the seed of shame that you have coughed up." The serpent holds it up and says, "This is the bark of the tree. I took this bark as medicine. For one day, as I was sitting there below the branches and leaves of the maple tree, I looked up to it and saw its glory. And I said, I would like some of this glory to be my own. So I peeled a chunk of bark off of the tree without asking the tree's permission. And I received it and I swallowed it hungrily, hoping that its light, that joy that was shining through the tree's leaves, could be my own. Instead, I coughed as it went down, and I felt it there in my insides, and it made me feel sick. And every time I swallowed, I could feel it living there inside of me. And I said to myself, what is this mistake that I have made? To try and take the light of another being and to have it as my own. Every time I swallowed, I remembered this act of trying to consume someone else's beauty to make it mine, and how it failed. And this lived with me all of my days. And when my great disappointment of being outshined by the Serpent Queen happened, I was reminded of this shame that was living inside of me, of my mistake of trying to make someone else's light my own, and how it had failed me. I chose at that moment to spread my regret and shame with all of these others. And the judge, who carries energies of heaven and hell, is speaking from the bench. As we hold up and perceive this maple bark, we can attune to its energies. We can attune to the gifts of the maple that brings shade to the people, that brings food and sweetness to the people, and beauty, color, and light. This medicine was wanting to be shared with the people for many, many years, because the medicine that comes from the poison is also the antidote to the poison. So here we distill the tiniest particles of this maple bark, and we hold it up in the courtroom for all to see in a beam of sunlight. We see this golden light holding this tiny little fleck of maple bark inside of it. The judge says to us, the courtroom and the serpent beings, feast your eyes on the energy of this maple bark. Receive its gifts of sweetness and lubrication, and feel that sweet lubrication moving through your body like the finest maple syrup at exactly the right levels of sweetness and slipperiness. Feel it move down through your heart, washing out all the shame and the pain, the fear and the hatred, the self-hatred, self-loathing, washing all of that out. Feel as it continues its journey down through the solar plexus, down into the womb space. It moves into all the places in the womb, and especially into the nose of the bull calf, that space in the center of the womb where that poison seed was held. That maple medicine moves into the seed, penetrating its depths and washing the shame out of the core of the seed. Since like attracts like, as that little fleck which held the maple's shame exits your body, so too do all of the later traumas that attach themselves to this earlier trauma. They move outside of you, down and out, through that shedding passageway that all women carry inside of them, whether physically or spiritually. As we are washing out this poison from within with the antidote, that maple syrup medicine moving through your body, we do this on behalf of all women everywhere. First, we clear out the two-legged ones, then the four-legged ones, the slithering ones, the swimming ones, the flying ones, and the standing ones. And they, through their light, their healed glory, extend that clearing to the males and the androgynous ones of all their species. As we release all of these layers of gaslighting from deep within our bodies, purging them into the earth, we thank the earth with the deepest gratitude and honor and respect for receiving our pain and transmuting it into something that will feed all of the people in all of their forms. We thank her for being the one who transforms that which has moved out of us on behalf of all humanity and all beings on this sacred, precious earth. And this old shame, this old poison leaks out of us like blood running through a moon cycle to be received by the earth and to nourish and fertilize her. We feel the golden light of the sun moving in through the crown and washing its way down our bodies, through the third eye, through the throat, and same path of healing, the healing maple syrup energy down to the heart and the solar plexus, the womb, and the root, down into the earth, letting the sunlight be a blessing to the earth. We say, I am ready to purge and release all of these old patterns of believing that the pain of someone else was my own pain. We are ready to forgive ourselves for the quote-unquote crime of having been misled so easily and having been so willing to accept personal blame for that which was not our own. We are ready to love ourselves for our willingness to take on the pain of others. We honor those who have walked this path before us and those who have gathered here to serve as our teachers and our healers, those who hold us in this circle of magic, power, and healing on the very deepest levels. We are here together to remove all traces of gaslighting from our own psyches so that we can see with full clarity what is true and what is not true. We attune and align ourselves to truth with a capital T, that overarching truth that lives within us and that buzzes through the cosmos and the depths of the earth and all planets and all stars in the star system. That truth that all is one, all is an aspect of one, a microcosm of that whole that is male and female, both together, whole and blameless, each a creator in our own right. For that is what we are and what we have come here to do. Goddess honors each of you for your courage in stepping forward with your depths of clarity and wisdom and willingness to sacrifice this wound that you have held so close to you that you could not even see it, like the skin of your face. You wore it on the inside and on the outside. It became a part of you. And now as you release it, as you purge it from your system, you are being awakened to that even deeper and even nearer truth of who you are, which is so much more than you ever could have imagined while a shred of gaslit shame was living within you. Ah, ha, ha. So now, as Spirit shines this light down on your womb space and sees that it has been purged, emptied, and released of that core seed of shame and all those other ones that came after it, we ask ourselves the question of why the shame was held in the womb space. It is because it is the most powerful target or location to plant that seed. For when a man plants a seed inside a woman, if he aims for this particular target or location, then that seed can rise, and it can call into being not just one life, but all of the generations of life that come thereafter. And so in purging your own womb of the seed of shame, we purge backwards in time to all of the wombs that came before this physical manifestation of you and of your body. Back to all of the ancestors, the grandmothers and the grandfathers, back to the origin of people who walked on this earth plane. And we purge the seed of shame forward to all of the generations that are living on this earth now and all of the generations that are to come afterwards. For this is the era of the goddess, where this golden light comes back into the world and it shines from every face, male, female, both or neither, where all of us can be and bear our true selves, our souls, with no fear of our corrupt nature that was imposed and impressed upon us by this one wounded being who had perhaps more power than he could bear to live with. As a final measure, we forgive this serpent king, this wounded leader who saw himself as the hero of his people. We invite him to shed his ego, which steered him wrong. This ego that impressed upon him that he was the rightful leader of the people, when his heart, seeing his mate leading with such grace and golden light, knew that she was the one who was destined to birth the light through them into the generations to come. We imagine the world that might have been had in that moment he recognized and shed the skin of his ego as it told him to reclaim his quote-unquote rightful power. Ah, ha, ha. So as the Serpent King goes back to this formative moment in the Earth's history and sheds that feeling of discontent, and with it the shame of having swallowed the bark to take on the maple's light as his own, he moves into a state of wisdom and clarity. He honors his mate for the goddess she is, and he invites her to continue sharing her golden light through the generations of the people, be they those who slither on the ground or those who walk, those who fly, swim, stand, or are silent. As we tap into this alternate reality that also happened and is happening right now, just as strongly and profoundly as the timeline that we have known, we can perceive it and live it through our bodies. We can feel what it is to hold and reflect out the golden light of the goddess, knowing it as ourselves, as our birthright, and as the inheritance we will pass on to the future generations. The inheritance we received from those generations that came before us, from the Great Mother who was birthed by the heavens, and Goddess is her name. So we honor and embody her teachings, the teachings of the Great Mother. And we thank the Great Mother, and we thank the Great Father, and we thank all of the beings in spirit who joined us, and we thank our bodies for their willingness to open up and to purge, to release, honoring that the releasing has begun on this day and it will continue in the days and weeks to come, asking the goddess for assistance in continuing to purge in a way that is gentle, manageable, and sustainable. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.